Hi everyone. So I'm Saral with you again to discuss the set theory set from LRDI CAT 2017 morning slot. In the previous two videos we have already discussed the two sets from CAT 2018. So now I'll be discussing the next two sets from CAT 2017. Today we are going to discuss the set from the morning slot, and in the next video there would be a set from the evening slot. So let us start with the set then. So it says applicants for the doctoral program of AIE and BIE Institute of Engineering have to appear for a common entrance test. The test has three sections: physics, chemistry and mathematics. Among those appearing for CET, those at or above the 80th percentile in at least two sections and at or above the 90th percentile overall are selected for the advanced entrance test. AET is used by AIE for the final selection, and we see that there is a lot of information here. So we have to read the data very carefully because too much of information would be there. He has already talked about three sets now: physics, chemistry and mathematics. He is talking about the people who have got more than 90 percentile overall and at or above the 80th percentile in at least two sections. Basically that is about the people who would be selected for this test. So he says now there are 200 candidates who are at or above the 90th percentile overall and based upon this exam, and the following information is known about them. So basically all this information is about those people only who scored more than 90th percentile overall, right? About these people only. No one is below the 80th percentile in all three sections. 150 are at or above the 80th percentile in exactly two. The number of candidates at or above the 80th percentile only in P is same as the number of people having this percentile only in C, which is same as the number of people having it only in M. And then the number of candidates below 80th percentile in P, C and M, they are in this ratio. So this time again we see that there is a specific information. So specific information, as we have already discussed, a specific information means Venn diagram. In the last two sets as well we found exactly the same thing, and again there are three sets. Three sets means there is a Venn diagram of three sets which would be there. But here there is an extra information now, and that extra information is about another engineering college which is BIE. It uses a different process for selection. If any candidate is appearing in the AET by AIE, BIE consider the AET score for final selection provided the candidate is at or above the 80th percentile in P. So BIE is actually putting a limit on P specifically. At any other candidate at or above the 80th percentile in P but who is not eligible for AET is required to appear in a separate test. So if I look at all these information, so there are some informations which are important for us. A few of them are that those at or above the 80th percentile in at least two and at or above the 90th percentile overall, they would be selected for this test, right? The second information is that BIE, they are actually looking for those people who have more than 80 percentile in P, and any other candidate at or above 80th percentile in P but is not eligible for AET is required to appear in a separate test. So primarily we have got three things now. One, people who have scored more than 80 percentile in at least two sections and at or above the 90th percentile overall, they all would be selected for AET, right? And any candidate appearing for AET, for those BIE would be considering another thing, that they should be having at least 80 percentile in P. So any two would not work. BIE says in P you should be having at least 80. And the people who are not having more than 80 percentile in more than two sections or two sections, but they have more than 80 percentile in P, so BIE gives them another chance and they have to appear for a separate test. So these are the three major informations with us. So let's once summarize these informations. So when the students are at or above the 80th percentile in at least two sections, they would be selected for the AET exam, that is the advanced entrance test. Students who are at or above the 80th percentile in two sections but one of them must be P, that means physics and at least one more section, then they are considered by BIE. and when the students are at or above the 80th percentile only in P. Only in P means that they are not having more than 80 percentile in two sections. In that case, they would not be eligible for AET, but they'll have to sit for the separate test for BIE. Okay. We'll start with the Venn diagram now, right? So these are the informations on the basis of which we have to make a Venn diagram. The Venn diagram would be of three sets, P, C and M, which represent physics, chemistry and mathematics. So as we have discussed before as well, we should be starting with the informations which gives us the exact info. So here the first important information for us is that no one is below the 80th percentile in all the three sections. What does that mean? That means everything is inside these three circles. And because it has already told to us that there are 200 candidates who are above the 90th percentile, that means these three circles together will be equal to 200. All the figures in these three circles will add up to 200. Okay, so we move to the next information now. The next important information is number 3 for us, which says the number of candidates at or above the 80th percentile only in P is the same as the number of candidates at or above the 80th percentile only in C, and which is same as the number of candidates at or above the 80th percentile only in M. So basically it says only P, only C and only M. These three areas are equal. If these three areas are equal, so let's call them A and A. So the next information with us is number of candidates below 80th percentile in P is to the number of candidates below 80th percentile in C to those who are below M. They are in a ratio of 4:2:1. We have almost similar kind of information in a set from 2018 as well, if you remember. So let's first of all understand this. What does this mean, that the number of candidates below 80th percentile in P? Now below P, what do you mean by below P? Below P, because this data is about the people who are at or above 80th percentile, that means below P would be the area outside that. So when I say the number of candidates below 80th percentile in P, so everything outside P would indicate the area about the people who are below P, because P is telling you about the number of people who are at or above the 80th percentile. So if I take out this area from here now, so we see that there are three white areas, two of them are A and the third area which is unknown. These three areas are actually representing candidates below P. Similarly, when I say number of candidates below 80th percentile in C, that means everything outside C, and similarly M is outside M. So this outside P, C and M, because they are in a ratio of 4:2:1, I am assuming these areas as 4x, 2x and x. So everything outside P is 4x, but outside P you see that there are three areas, two of them are already A. That means the third unknown area would be 4x minus 2a. Total area is 4x, and you subtract those two A's, it gives you 4x minus 2a. Similarly, the other two areas would be 2x minus 2a and x minus 2a, because these three numbers were in a ratio of 4:2:1. So using these informations we get these areas, and as we have discussed every time, that our job is to minimize the number of variables. So here again we are trying to do the same. We are minimizing the number of variables. So now come to the next information, which says 150 people are at or above the 80th percentile in exactly 2. Now what does exactly 2 represent here? So exactly 2 represents these three areas. One is 2x minus 2a, one is x minus 2a and one is 4x minus 2a. When the question says these three areas add up to 150, that means x minus 2a, 2x minus 2a, 4x minus 2a, when we add them it should be 150. So the sum of all these areas will give us an equation, 7x minus 6a is equal to 150. Also we know that all other areas, now because the complete area is 200, so these three areas are 150, and out of the other four areas we see that three are already A. So the area which is common to all three of them, should be equal to 200 minus 150 minus 3a. 200 is the sum of all those areas, 150 is the sum of the three yellow areas that you see on your screen. The other three areas are A. When I subtract those, I get 50 minus 3a as the area in the middle. So I hope you have understood this now. So now I see there are 4 areas. These all areas must be greater than or equal to 0. Apart from these 4, I mean there are 3 areas which are A, so we know that A cannot be negative, but these 3 areas must be greater than or equal to 0. Now x minus 2a, when it is greater than or equal to 0, then 4x minus 2a and 2x minus 2a would automatically be greater than 0. Similarly, the 4th area was 50 minus 3a. When 50 minus 3a is greater than or equal to 0, we can say that a should be less than or equal to 16.66. So now we have an equation 7x minus 6a is equal to 150, and we have these 2 restrictions as well, that x should be greater than or equal to 2a and a should be less than or equal to 16.66. So we'll find out some solutions using these constraints and this equation. So now the solutions are according to 7x minus 6a is equal to 150. We have got these all solutions. X is 24, a is 3, x is 30, a is 10. So there are infinite solutions to this equation. But all those solutions which are not satisfying the given 2 conditions, we'll have to take those out. So obviously, because a is less than or equal to 16.66, only first 2 solutions would remain. These are the only 2 solutions which are of use for us. So according to these 2, x is 24 when a is 3 and x is 30 when a is 10. So let's put these values into the Venn diagram. We'll obviously getting 2 Venn diagrams now. When I put x as 24 and 3, I get the values as these which are represented here. And when I put them as 30 and 10, I get another Venn diagram which is containing these values. So ultimately we get these 2 Venn diagrams now, on the basis of which we have to answer our upcoming questions. So I'll straight away move to the questions now. So the first question with us is, what best can be concluded about the number of candidates sitting for the separate test for BIE who were at or above the 90th percentile overall in CET? So we have these 2 Venn diagrams with us now, and the question is talking about the number of candidates sitting for the separate test for BIE. If you remember who is going to sit for the separate test for BIE, so this information was there in the original set, that any other candidate at or above the 80th percentile in P but who is not eligible for AET is required to appear in a separate test. Now who all are eligible for AET? The question said anyone who is at or above the 80th percentile in at least 2 sections is eligible for AET. So if I look at the circle of P, 3 areas that represent the people who are having 80 or above percentile in at least 2 sections. The areas which are not there is the area of only P. So that means the number of candidates who will have to sit for a separate test is either 3 or 10, which is given in option number 1. Let's move to the next set now. It says the number of candidates who are at or above the 90th percentile overall and also at or above the 80th percentile in all 3 sections in CET is actually a multiple of 5. So the area which is common in all 3 of them, the question says it should be a multiple of 5. Then we can clearly see in both the Venn diagrams that it is a multiple of 5 in the second case, which is 20. So that means we are talking about the second case now. The first case we have to rule out. So what is the number of candidates who are at or above the 90th percentile overall? So obviously the data is about them only, and at or above the 80th percentile in both P and M. So we have to look at the area which is common in both P and M, and that is represented by this 40 and 20. That means the answer for us for this question would be 60. 60 people are there who are above the 80th percentile in both P and M. So let's move to the next question now. If the number of candidates who are at or above the 90th percentile overall and also at or above the 80th percentile in all 3 is actually a multiple of 5. So again, like the previous question, we are talking about the second figure which represents the area common in all 3 as a multiple of 5. So again the first figure would be ruled out, second would be taken. So how many candidates were shortlisted for AET for AIE? So how many people are shortlisted? Only those are shortlisted who have scored 80 or more in at least 2 sections. That means the sum of these 4 areas would be representing that how many candidates were shortlisted for AET. So our answer is 170. And this brings us to the last question of the series. The number of candidates who are at or above the 90th percentile overall and also are at or above the 80th percentile in P in CET is more than 100. So here he is talking specifically about circle P only. He says that in circle P there should be more than 100 people. And we also have this information that altogether there are 400 candidates this year who are at or above the 80th percentile in P. This was there in the original data. So circle P should be having more than 100 people. If I look at circle P in both the figures now, this figure 1 will give me the sum of the values as 104 and figure 2 gives me 80. So obviously this time the figure 1 is applicable for this question. Question is asking you how many candidates had to sit for a separate test. So how many of these 104 candidates will sit for AET? The number of candidates who will sit for AET actually is the number of candidates who are good in at least 2. So they are 101, 42 plus 41 plus 18. The remaining 3 candidates, now they'll have to sit for a separate test, and these 101 are sitting for AET. But in total there are 400 candidates who are at or above the 80th percentile. So out of those 400, I see that 101 have already sat for CET. That means the remaining people, 400 minus 101, the remaining 299 people, they would sit for this separate exam, and hence the answer to this question is 299. So again I see that just like the last 2 sets that we have discussed from 2018, every time we are looking at one common thing, that every time we had a Venn diagram of 3 sets. Second, specific informations are given, so the question is talking about Venn diagrams. Third, as we discussed, every time the number of variables has to be minimized. So this time again we used only 2 variables, and that has made the question look easy. And again, let me tell you, this question was considered to be quite a difficult question from the Standard of Care 2017 LRDI, but doing it with the proper method again can make it a cakewalk for you. So that's all from my side today. So we'll be coming up with the next set very soon from 2017 evening slot. So till then, goodbye and have a good day.